run the ball. He ran the ball for over 100 yards, didn't take a lot of hits. They didn't have to call quarterback run plays very often. He knew when to scramble. He knew when to pass. So, yeah, K-State is on an upswing. But remember when I talked about early, before the year started, I was focused and looking at how dangerous Kansas at West Virginia was. Well, let me use the same words for this weekend. K-State at BYU, Danny. Don't blink now, but BYU is learning how to be a part of this conference. They have a new respect for what it takes. They lost their last 5 games last year, but when they're at home and they're 3-0, they went on the road and upset SMU. They just dominated Wyoming in their last game. BYU is 3-0. They are ready to roll. They got a big stadium. It's altitude. It's longer grass. I expect BYU to play out of their minds, and it is the second latest kickoff game in the whole country. Only Hawaii is kicking later than K-State. How does K-State handle a 9:30 Central Time kick time, Danny? Altitude, BYU, here you go. If you're rooting against K-State, this is the game where you say, hey, maybe BYU could do something. This is another dangerous game.
Right.
The Cats are playing well, but they really haven't cleared anything. It's like, okay, the next games are at BYU and then Oklahoma State. So welcome to the NFL type schedule I've been talking about. They got to strap the jerseys, their helmets back on and get ready to play, or they'll lose. These are some tough games coming up. K-State can win them, but they're probably going to be close.
And Missouri, they get off to, I don't even know if it's a slow start. Boston College played well early on, but same kind of scenario here. Once Missouri kicked it into gear, they dominated the Eagles, forced a couple of turnovers, and they don't have a big challenge to start conference play as they'll take on Vanderbilt.
Yes, Missouri responded very well, Danny. First of all, I thought they respected Boston College coming in. The crowd was amazing. But I love that quarterback at BC. Mm-hmm. And Bill O'Brien's doing a good job coaching him, and they got what they needed. Boston College made a 4th down conversion from basically the 5-yard line rather than taking a 3-0 lead. They went for it, got rewarded, and suddenly laid that 14-3. And you weren't seeing the ball, getting to Luther Burden, and Missouri wasn't dictating. So you say, uh-oh, this Boston College is the real deal, and Missouri's behind. We played almost a whole half. This is when you see upsets. But, man, the composure that Missouri had from that point, Danny, their defense just locked down, and Boston College seemed like they were just scrambling to get 3 or 4 yards. It was really awesome defense by Mizzou, waiting for the offense to get going. Sure enough, they did. This was just a classy win by Missouri, mm-hmm. and they had to be ready to play. They kind of eased themselves into the season more than almost any team in the country with the easy games they had. But this was legitimate. You're behind 14-3 against Boston College. That quarterback, this football team, the physicality. You made a big mistake on that, that fumbled snap that turned into a long touchdown. That's not how you script plays. You're like, crap, everything's going wrong. And then they just went to work, went out and won. And same thing. You're right. They beat Boston College by 21 points every time if they played again and again and again. So impressive for Missouri. And right when we were starting to say, and Vanderbilt is better than we thought. Just like Boston College was better than we thought coming in as a 24th ranked team in the country, we were about ready to say, and Vanderbilt, they are playing better football. Well, Danny, I don't know if you stayed up late enough to know, but
yes,
Georgia State beat Vanderbilt 36-32. So Vanderbilt's coming in more like Vanderbilt. So Missouri should be a big favorite. And when I said advance me to October, and the Tigers are going to be undefeated, just snap of the fingers, I think that statement's back in place, Danny. It was a great win over Boston College. It was great that they got tested and they responded. They were a mature team. Congratulations, Mizzou. I think they'll beat Vanderbilt, and one of the tricky games on the schedule for Ole Mizzou this year will be played with a whole week off as they get 2 weeks to prepare for that game at Texas A&M. That's kind of when Missouri's season was supposed to start in my mind. It actually started with that win over Boston College. So they're kind of like ready for preseason football, and it turned into a regular season game, and they responded. So here we go. Missouri could be – they're likely to be in the top 5 in the country when they go to Texas A&M for that game in October.
Stan, always a pleasure to check out things football-wise. The Chiefs are amazing. We got some interesting storylines in college. Always a pleasure, my man.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Stan Weber joining us on Monday Musings. Danny and Friends Sports Wrap. We'll check out the Royals. They're just poised to head for the playoffs, even though Sunday loss doesn't feel good. And Sporting Kansas City season is kind of withering on the vine. A couple other things to talk about coming up next on Monday Musings. Danny and Friends Sports Wrap, presented by ASFCA.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
It's always a pleasure to catch up with Dr. Brad Woodle from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, 8 locations all around Kansas City, the latest in Raytown. Pick out the one that's most convenient for you and pick it out this fall. If you've got a young athlete who needs a little bit of treatment or tender, loving care, injuries can happen, little strains can happen, and Dr. Woodle, you can help them out.
We take care of athletes both in prevention and in those injuries. Things happen. But the most exciting thing is we can take care of almost anything that deals with bones, muscles, joints. Whether it's a sprain, strain, or a concussion, we can take care of that athlete.
That you can at all the locations around Kansas City, and you can get that treatment, your own treatment, all the treatments you want to make you feel better, body, mind, and spirit at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
Did you experience hail damage last year and never got the work done? Most insurance companies only give you a year to get the roof fixed. And if you don't get it done, you could possibly not be compensated in full for the replacement of your roof. If you've been procrastinating getting that damaged roof taken care of, give us a call at 913-257-5426. And we'll send out an expert to help you through the process. We're never pushy, we're just here to help. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business on Kansas City's #1 rated podcast, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome back. Well, just a couple weeks left in the season for the Royals. They only have 12 games left, and basically it's positioning right now. They kind of seem like they'll be locked into the second wild card spot, and they'll be looking around to see who they're going to play, lining up their pitching, which was outstanding on Friday and Saturday. 1-run outings for Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo. Brady Singer wasn't particularly good on Sunday, and that continues a trend as he has an ERA over 5 since August 1st. Pretty much cementing the fact that he'll be coming out of the bullpen in the playoffs, and isn't that nice to just even say? And, of course, the Royals trying to fine-tune their offense, which was only middling over the weekend, but good enough to win 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. Bobby Witt Jr. gets his 100th RBI and then keeps padding on. The Royals have 200 RBI players for the first time in quite a while, and, in fact, they would have had 3 if Vinny Pasquantino hadn't gotten hurt. So in general, all things are lovely for the Kansas City Royals, as people might want to get out and catch one of the few home games remaining and get set for the playoffs. And if the Royals play a home playoff game, that will be a big story because that means they will advance past the wild card round. But Royals now 82-68, insured, even if they lost all the rest, and they ain't going to do that, of a winning season, a remarkable turnaround, and a feel-good story for the Kansas City Royals, to say the least, as the Royals, as I mentioned, 2.5 games up on the Twins and 5 games ahead in the wild card. The Mariners and the Tigers are the 2 teams that are trying to flag down the Royals, but that would take an almost impossible collapse for the Royals, and I think their pitching's too good to even think about that. Mondays are always the day we bring you our baseball roundup, and things are boiling down to a few positioning races and or divisional titles. The Yankees have gotten their lead over the Orioles up to 3. The Orioles have not played good baseball for quite a while, and the Yankees 7-3 record in the last 10, and the Orioles 3-7 has flip-flopped first place there. The Red Sox, Rays, and Blue Jays put up a bit of a fight for 500 for a while. That's about all they're playing for now, rounding out that division. The Guardians, every time they start to look a little bit vulnerable, they right the ship, won a couple games over the weekend, and they won 6 of their last 10. They've got the lead, which had dropped to 2 games over the Royals, back up to 4, and the Royals, with their 97% chance of making the playoffs. Twins haven't had a good go of it for the last 10 games, and they've fallen 2.5 games behind the Royals, but still in playoff position and likely to get there, but not out of the woods yet. Tigers have played good ball for a long time, but it may be too little too late. How about the White Sox? They won consecutive games this past weekend. They're on a 2-game winning streak. First time they've done that since June. They need to go 7-5 in their last 12 games to avoid being the worst team in modern baseball and break the record of the Mets. They seem determined to do that. I don't know if they've got 7-5 in their holster. We'll have to wait and see. Astros are getting healthier, looking more like the Astros, have won 4 in a row, and they maintain a 4.5-game lead over the Mariners, who've played very good baseball. They've won 3 in a row and 7 of 10, but it may be too little too late. As mentioned, the defending champion Rangers are packing their golf clubs. The Oakland Athletics have actually played pretty well for quite a long time, about a 500 team for a long time, but they have one of a handful of teams that have already been eliminated from playoff contention, as are the Angels. Best record in baseball, first team to 90 wins, is the Philadelphia Phillies, and they are in first place by 9 games over the Mets. And the Mets and the Braves, the two teams that have the drama component heading down the stretch, as they are in a flat-footed tie for the wild card, the final wild card position, and the Nats and Marlins playing out the string. In the Central, the Brewers are just sort of fine-tuned. They're kind of like the Royals. They're going to win the division, which the Royals aren't, but I mean they're sort of locked into a position as far as the playoffs are concerned. Jackson Churios, the 20-year-old, has been unbelievable for them. He's got the youngest player to have a 2020 season, and they're a healthy 23 games over 500. Cubs made a run for a while and look like they'll be a plus 500 team, but they don't look like they're going to make the wild card. They're 6 games out now. The other 2 wild cards, the first 2, are handled by the Padres and Diamondbacks. And the Padres have taken advantage of the Dodgers enough to still dream at 3.5 games back in the division, but we'll have the Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks all from the West in the playoffs. Giants got a note. They had their first right-handed batter, and I don't have his name in front of me, the first right-handed batter in the history of their ballpark to hit the ball into McCovey Cove, which is, of course, beyond the right field fence. That happened over the weekend. That's about the highlight for what's been going on with the Giants recently, and the Colorado Rockies have not been good all year long. Well, a team that hasn't been good all year long really is Sporting Kansas City. They played a little bit better of late, but not on Sunday night. They lose 2-0 in Seattle. It's a tough place to play. It's one of the only places you play on turf. Seattle's good. Sporting got off to a pretty good start, but once they fell behind on a Seattle Sounder goal in the first half, they gave up another one. That was ruled offside, but then they gave up a real one. It was 2-0, and they didn't play very well in the second half. It was the first of 5 games in 14 days. They've got 2 MLS games this week, but they're 11 points out of a playoff spot. And it's mathematically possible, but almost realistically impossible. But as I mentioned, on the Open, they have the U.S. Open Cup final, so they could get some hardware on this season, and then a lot of changes of personnel and roster are looming for the off-season for Sporting Kansas City. And a little golf note. Of course, they're playing the fall series. If you really are dying to watch any golf at all, there was a PGA tournament over the weekend. It was played out in wine country. Look up the results if you like. But the more significant golf over the weekend was the Solheim Cup, won in the end fairly easily by the United States. There was some drama on Sunday, but it was the first time they have won the Solheim Cup, the women's equivalent of the Ryder Cup, since 2017, so congratulations to the U.S. and Stacey Lewis, their captain, as they take down Great Britain and Ireland. It was a really fun spectacle in Virginia, beautiful golf course, and a lot of dramatics, but the U.S. got off to a big lead early on, and the Europeans could not make it up. Some drama during the course of Sunday, but in the end, the U.S. wins the cup back. And they played this Solheim Cup on consecutive years to get back opposite the Ryder Cup schedule. It was impacted by COVID, but the U.S. Solheim Cup champions. That'll do it for this Monday. Thanks to Stan for diving into the football with us. We look forward to postseason baseball for the Royals, and we've got a great week of podcasts for you on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Got the Couples podcast this week, another great profile, all the things you come to enjoy Thanks always for listening. You can always get in touch with me for any reason at Danny@DannyKlinkskill.com. Have yourself a sunny Monday.
We hope you